Bonjour everyone and welcome back to my channel, The Waves of Your Soul. My name is Marine, I'm a French tarot reader and I'm so excited to welcome you for today's video, which is gonna be June 2021 favorite. So if you've been on my channel, you might have only seen my hands. I've not really shown my face before, but I've just recently passed the 500 subscribers mark, which I'm very grateful for. It feels like a big deal to me, and so I wanted to do something a little bit different, also sharing a little bit more of me. To be honest, I was nervous about meeting people on the internet, so this is why I mostly film from above. Also, I do not believe that you need to see my face for any of my tarot readings, because I feel like it would just get in the way of you getting your messages. You're here for the tarot reading, you're not here to see me. For today anyway, I'm trying this. Hopefully it will go well. Please be nice. We're gonna be talking about tarot and oracle decks, of course. This is why you're here potentially. This is what I mostly talk about on my channel. And because this is like my first time sharing a little bit more about me, I thought it would be fun to share with you also my lifestyle favorites, so makeups, TV shows, things like that, because you know, this is what makes me a person. We all live in the normal world. We can be spiritual, into tarot cards, and still watch Netflix, and still love doing our nails, and still love, you know, doing like regular day-to-day things. So I'm gonna share all of that with you today. If you're only interested in certain categories, I'm gonna put in the timestamps below, the timestamps for each of the categories. So if you're just here for the tarot decks and the oracle decks, you can jump straight to that. If you want to hear it all, then I'm very grateful. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I'll also put the timestamp for everything there. So without further ado, let's get started. For my favorites, let's go. Let's start with books. I'm gonna start by sharing this particular one. I've only got one book to share actually for the month of June, but it is a chunky monkey. It's quite heavy actually. So this is a Holistic Tarot by Benebell. It's like 900 pages, so I've not read all of it. What I do is I dip in and out and pick what interests me. But I wanted to mention this book. If you are wanting to go a little bit in depth with the tarot, I think this is a really great one. I read a ton of books around tarot, spirituality and all of that, you know. I feel like we can always learn. I'm always learning. So it took me a little bit of time to pick up this one. It's been out for a few years, I believe. I just was hesitating to make the call for the actual paper version. I feel like those kind of books, when you get them on Kindle, it's so hard to navigate between the chapters, right, on Kindle, because there's like so many chapters. I had to like commit to getting it sent to where I live, which is quite difficult, but in the end I caved, and I'm so glad I did. This book covers pretty much everything you need to know about tarot, or a good deal anyway. You know, Benebell is a very prolific writer. She's well known in the tarot community. If you don't know, she has a great blog where she posts a lot about tarot decks, about considerations around the tarot, about her personal practice, etc. She is a lawyer in her personal life, I believe, in her muggle life. And I find that really interesting. Like I said, I've not read all of it, but the one chapter that stood out to me so far that I've read that I think already makes this book worth it is her chapter around ethics, consideration of ethics around tarot. This is a topic that we never hear really talked about in tarot books, and you know, everything to do with learning the tarot. It always talks about court card meanings, the meanings of the major arcana, keywords, spreads, how to do the Celtic cross. Like, it, you know, those are all great things to learn how to read the tarot, because it helps you read the cards. But if you're thinking of reading for anyone but yourself, even if it's not professionally, I think considering the link between ethics and tarot is so important. Oftentimes, I find that people tend to put tarot readers on a pedestal because they think that we have special secret powers. Some tarot readers define themselves as, you know, having that special connection, and that's great, you know, each to their own. However, I believe that anyone can be a tarot reader if they put the effort in, if they commit to the practice, and if they are willing to learn about themselves, about the world, and about others. I don't call myself as having special powers. I do not put myself on a pedestal, and I certainly do not want, whenever I'm doing readings, and I'm not even charging for my readings at the moment. Right now, at this specific moment in time, I don't do professional readings. I just read for friends, family, and on my YouTube channel for, you know, the collective. But even then, I take ethics very seriously. I always consider the implications of what I say, and I'm always trying to make sure that I don't project my personal views onto a reading, that I leave space for other people's opinion, and, you know, just generally all the things that ethics can be. It's a big subject. There's a lot, you know, to be said. And just for that reason, I'm so grateful that someone is talking about that. So I wanted to talk about this book, and she has a great she has a great chapter around spreads as well. I'm gonna go back in and read about the symbolism and meaning of the cards, etc. But because I've read so many books about that, I wanted to read first the chapters that kind of stand out from other tarot books, and then I'll go back and read the ones that are a little bit more normal. Check this one out if you're willing to go a little bit the extra mile in your knowledge around tarot, and not just about tarot esoteric meaning and symbolism and stuff like that, but also around what it means to be reading the cards, how it feels, what are the implications. Then I think this is a great one to add to your book library. Okay, so next category I wanted to approach is my lifestyle category, and I'm gonna start with TV shows. I love watching TV shows. Like, honestly, I'm a huge Netflix fan. I love watching TV series. I'm obsessed. I like films, but I'm more of a TV series because I like to be hooked, and I like longer stories. I think it's because when I was a kid I would love those huge, like, young fantasy novels that go on for books and books and books, and so I like that translated into a TV format. So the first TV show I wanted to mention is on its last season now. It's finished. There's 3 seasons in total, and it's called Pose. So Pose is I feel like it's American. It's all based around the ballroom life in New York in the 80s and 90s. So if you don't know what ballroom are, they were like competitions where the LGBTQA plus community could go to, and they could walk certain categories, which very, very much inspired RuPaul's Drag Race later on. Everything from categories such as voguing, you know, which was the dance that then inspired Madonna for her own hit music. She inspired herself from the ballroom. Things like ochre and Yes God, and things like, you know, shade, throwing shade, spilling the tea, you know, reading people. Those are all things that came from the ballroom world. And the contestants would walk certain category. So they would be, for example, like I said, a voguing category. For the best dancer, there would be a face category, and this face category would usually be for all of the trans people to be able to express their true self and show their true color and be proud of, you know, their beauty, which is amazing. There would usually be some fashion runways category. You know, for example, category is royalty realness, the kind of category that we would now see on RuPaul's Drag Race runway. Those all came from the ballroom culture. If you're interested in ballroom culture, then I really recommend you watching the documentary Paris is Burning, which is actually on real life houses that were formed by real people from the 80s and 90s, belonging to the LGBTQIA plus community. So I really recommend this documentary. It's great. But if you're more interested into something that is a little bit more romanticized and a little bit more fun and very, very moving, then I really recommend you to watch Pose. It follows characters who are all part of the ballroom culture, whether they are gay or trans people, and it shows their struggle at the times, their struggle to fit in, their struggle to make their rights heard, their struggle to find a job, to find love. There's a whole sideline to the story that talks about AIDS and HIV and how that was a huge death toll on so many people at the time. And the TV show is amazing. I really recommend it. There's only 3 seasons. The fashion is to die for. I love fashion. The storyline behind it, the history, the culture that it brings, the attention that it brings to a certain community, you know, is so important and so amazing. And the characters are beautiful. It's very moving, it's funny but emotional. So if you haven't watched Pose yet, I really recommend it. Another TV show I wanted to mention is called Sweet Tooth. It came on Netflix, I think, this month, and I finished it in like 2 days. Let me know in the comments if you can relate. And it's for all of my fantasy, post-apocalyptic lovers, everyone who likes a bit of fantasy, everyone who likes to know what would happen in a dystopian reality, which is so up my alley. This one is particularly sweet because the premise of this TV show is that a virus spread around the world. We can relate. And that virus caused children to be born with animal features. So for example, they'd have like little foxtails or little chameleon eyes, or you know, wings, owl wings, and all the babies now are born with animal bits and bobs. Follow this particular kid who has deer antlers and those cutest deer ears, and it follows his journey as people now are very scared of different kids because they think that the kids with animal parts cause the virus, and so those kids have to hide and they have to live a life away because of their difference, etc. Anyone who loves fantasy, anyone who loves something that is funny but yet has a serious twist to it, anyone who loves animals, because honestly those kids with animal, you know, parts are so cute. It made me think, like, if I could choose to have animal parts, what would I want? I think I would want wings, because then I can fly. But then it would be hard to like put clothes on because your wigs would get in the way. So like I'd have to wear capes every day, which I'm not mad about. I like capes. But you know, it makes you think. What would you want if you had animal bits? I do really like the kids' little deer ears. Like, they are so cute. Anyway, let me know in the comments, you know, if you had to choose an animal thing, then what would you want? Maybe gills, so you could breathe underwater. That would be cool too. Okay, let's move on to my next lifestyle bit. It's still spiritually related. I want to talk about makeup, and you're gonna be like, why is makeup spiritually related? Like, girl. And I'm like, wait, let me hear me out. Because this particular makeup brand that I've discovered this month is called Odin's Eye. Literally, Odin from Norse mythology, right? So Odin's Eye, it's a Swedish indie makeup brand. The whole premise of their brand is that they create every single product around Norse mythology. I know, right? Like, what more do we want? We love the mythology. We love the magic. We love the spirituality. We love the makeup. You know, when I discovered this brand, I was like, this is amazing. Imagine fairy kind of magic inspired makeup, makeup inspired by goddesses. It's all there. So excited. So like I said, this brand is indie, which is cool because I like to support indie brands anyway. Makeup is cruelty free, you know, which is also super important to me, and I feel like their whole aesthetic is just chef kiss. So I wanted to talk about this particular eyeshadow palette today. So in Norse mythology, there are three sisters who weave the web of fate, and they're called the Norm Sisters. And so this latest collection that they released is based around the Norm Sisters. So the palette I got is the one from the Sister of the Future, and she is called Skuld. And so she's the sister that weaves the fate for the future. She's the youngest one, she decides the future. And they're very powerful being in the cosmos. They've released a palette for each of the sisters. So I'm probably gonna order different shadows now that I've tried them and I know the pigmentation is amazing. But for any of my makeup lovers out there, if you enjoy colorful makeup or even more neutral, but if you enjoy a very high quality eyeshadow, you might like mythology just like me. You might love makeup, fairy vibes inspired, and so I thought I would mention that today. Okay, let's move on to our next category, which is probably why you're here for anyway, which are my decks, my favorite tarot and oracle decks of the month of June. So I'm gonna start with oracle decks first, and you might have seen the first one in my recent deck haul that I posted not that long ago, and it is the Copper Rabbit illustration oracle deck, the Inktober one. This particular deck is an indie oracle deck that might now be out of print. I'm sorry, but she by the time I posted my haul, she didn't have that many left, so I don't know how long she's got those ones left for. For a whole month she had to draw a drawing. Yeah, well done Maureen, you speak English so well. For each of the days of the month she had to draw something as part of the challenge, and she turned that into an oracle. So you might not be able to find a specific one anymore, but I will still put the link of her website below because she has another beautiful oracle deck which I've also been really enjoying, but I didn't get to know it as much in the month of June, so I might, it might show up in my July favorites. The month of June I really got to know this one. This oracle deck is all based on fairy tales, European fairy tales. They are, dragons and like creatures, mystical creatures, and dark forest and witches. I absolutely love this deck because it is very imaginative. There are some great cards like that all talks about themes that relate to my childhood. So for example, here we have the cloak. We see in a lot of fairy tales, we see in a lot of stories. I have been absolutely loving pairing this deck with my more fantasy inspired tarot decks. I paired it with the Deviant Moon and that was like a power combo. I've loved that. I've also paired it with my Spolia Tarot. I've also been reading it on its own and I find it so intuitive and I just love this artist artwork. Like I said, this is an indie oracle. If you can't find this one, still check out her work. She has another, like I said, very beautiful oracle that I have around dreams. This deck I've been using for storytelling, so I'll pull like 3 cards and I'll think, okay, what's happening right now and how can I, tell the story between those 3 cards and see if that story fits me. I find that's a great way to read the cards sometimes. If you want to like give yourself a break from being overly, thinking about tarot meanings and everything, sometimes it's easier to do reading if you just tell a story. Pull 3 cards and say, okay, well, let me literally just say what's on the card, describe what's going on in the cards, and maybe from that I can figure out what's going on. What, for example, let's see an example, what collectively does everyone watching this needs to know right now? What's a message that they might need to know at this moment in time for everyone watching this? We have the graveyard and we have the sea witch. So from those 3 cards, I could say that, for example, as a collective message, this is showing us that the times we're going in right now are definitely testing us. They are there to see if we're able to adapt, to evolve, to change. Einstein famously said, you can't find solution from the same kind of mindset that created the problem. So if you're facing any problems right now, if you're facing any kind of hurdles, if you're standing in front of any mountains that feel impossible to climb, then the advice here with graveyard and sea witch is very much to letting go of anything that is requiring you to let go of, grieving anything that requires your grieving, and embracing a little bit of magic. With this sea witch card, I feel like there's a strong emphasis on our emotions, on honoring all the emotions that can arise when we're facing challenges. Sometimes it's easy when we're faced with a challenge to think, okay, what do I need to do next? And go very like Nine of Wands or Knight of Swords energy. But sometimes what's required for us in order to move forward is simply to honor our feelings, to honor all the emotions that might come up, and to honor the fact that there might be some grieving to be had, there might be some hearts that need tending, there might be some compassion that is needed, some empathy with yourself, some kindness with yourself. So before you feel like you have to jump onto the next thing, or you feel like you have to go straight to finding solutions and going about your to-do list, etc., take some time for honoring yourself, take some time for honoring your emotions. I love this little deck. I think it's very powerful. I think it's a great companion oracle, but it also works really interestingly and beautifully on its own. Okay, next oracle I want to talk about is l'Oracle de l'âme. This is another one I've mentioned in my videos before. I think I've showed it in my 10 all-rounders oracle videos, or 10 most all-purpose oracles. I literally I'm the one who did the video and I can't even remember what I called it. Welcome to my life. This is a French deck, but it's mass market, so you can easily find it, on French Amazon and things like that. I think this is a great all-rounder deck. So I've loved this one for reading for myself. I've loved this one for readings on my channel. You might see this one pop up on a lot of my pick a card readings. It's super on point. Like, it's diverse in terms of ethnicity, there's some body diversity. I love the fact that it has a good balance of keywords, it is got a modern twist, it's got some great balance between light and shadows, it's very like self-help. Still it talks about things like magic and meditation and art guides, but in a way that doesn't feel like overly esoteric and overly out there. This is a great one for anyone who needs something a little bit more rooted in modern day, with actual advice, with, I think you could pair it with many oracle decks, with many tarot decks, and I just really love this one. I think it's a great little oracle deck. It does come with a little guidebook, so you get a meaning for each of the card, and you also get a mantra, all in French. So if you don't speak French, then that might be an issue. But even if you don't speak French, I do believe you can use this deck, because honestly, you don't need the guidebook. It's pretty basic. And the images speak for themselves, honestly. Like, you know that this is someone grieving, right? So I don't need to speak like another language to figure out what's going on here. And it's the same with most of the images here. So I wanted to share that with you because I love sharing French texts on my channel. Especially I love sharing French texts that I think non-French speakers could use. I think there's something to be said about sometimes it's interesting to use a deck that is not in our main language because it gives us another point of view. So considering I'm French, I'm trying to bring French decks to the English crowds because maybe that's gonna help someone discover new things. Especially if you're like not put off by words in another language. When the images speak for themselves, they speak for themselves. There are some decks that I have in French that I would never recommend to you guys who are non-French speaking, because literally if you can't read the guidebook, the deck is like quite useless. It's just one of those. But this one, you don't need the guidebook. Finally, let's move on to my favorite category, and I'm sure many of us favorites category, which is tarot decks. So this month I have been using, some months I use a lot of decks, some months I don't use as many. Months of June I didn't use a lot, I mostly worked with 2 decks. And I realized I was in a very colorful phase. Some months I'm like, give me all the black things, give me all the dark decks, give me all the gloomy and doomy and dark. And this month I was just like, I just want color, I just want colorful things, creative things that are going to stimulate my imagination. And so I find that that's definitely what those 2 decks are. The first one is the Muse Tarot by Chrisanne. I've also shown this in my recent deck haul, so it's no surprise that it's been made its way in my favorites, as it's a quite recent acquisition. And because it's recent, I wanted to give it some proper time, and so I worked with it most of the month of June. I've done some personal readings with it, I've done some readings for my channel with it, I've done all of my July 2021 zodiac readings for all the signs I've done with this tarot deck, and it has delivered. So this is a mass market deck by Chrisanne, who also created the Light Sears Tarot, but this one is a collage deck, and as you can see it is super colorful, it is super vibrant, and I have been absolutely loving this deck. So this deck is very colorful, it is very stimulating. Some of the cards, so the kings have been renamed as muses, and those cards are landscape, which I know can bother some people, but I don't mind. The suits have been renamed. So we have inspiration for wands, we have cups are emotions, voices are swords, and materials are pentacles. I normally hate when people rename the suits. That's a strong word, but I just don't like decks that go off too much on a tangent, because then it's hard work and I'm lazy and I don't like to have to think forever about what the suit means. But I will forgive it with this one because it makes sense. Like, materials as pentacles make sense, inspiration for wands makes sense, like it all makes sense to me, so I'll forgive it. You do a spread with a few cards, it really grabs your attention. I've loved doing readings with it for myself as well. It gives, the book is actually really good. Chrisanne's writing is always very inspired. She gives a poem for each of the card, she gives you journaling prompt. This is Hay House, so the quality is great, and I've really enjoyed edging it. You can check out my July 2021 readings for all of the signs. I'm using this deck throughout, and it's been a great reader. Okay, next up is a deck I've used mostly for me, I think only for me this month, but it's something I've really enjoyed, and I've talked about this deck already on my channel. It is Tarot Fauna by Devin Strickler and Brittany Buckard. This is an indie tarot deck, but you can get it straight on their website, or I think you can find it on Etsy as well. I've shown these decks a few times on my channel before. I really love going back to this deck for myself when I need something very healing, very soothing, that is gonna please my inner child. This deck is all animals, so you've got foxes for the wands, you've got otters for the cups, you've got bears for the pentacles, and you've got owls for the swords. Suits have been renamed again, so you know we have torches for wands, feathers for swords, shells for cups, rocks for pentacles. And remember, I just said I hate decks that rename things. I still don't like it, but again, I'll forgive it for this one because it does make sense, and because each of the cards still very much follows RWS. I like the fact that there's a consistency with this because it's the same animal throughout each of the suit. It makes a great story and it's easy to follow. I find it very easy to read, and this one I like to go back to when like I said, I need to connect to my inner child. I need something soothing, I need something healing, and I personally very much enjoy working with animal medicine. So last tarot deck I wanted to mention is actually an indie tarot deck by Tarot Collectibles, and it is the Groovy Weight. I've had this deck for a few months now, and I absolutely have been loving it this month. Like I said, I've been really feeling like some color, wanting some, you know, joy, and you know, this deck is all inspired by the 70s. It is, as the name suggests, very groovy. I love the colors, I love the bright pinks, the bright yellows. I love that there are rainbows in most of the cards. I love the crazy psychedelic vibe. You know, there's even a smoky extra card that comes with this deck, which is super fun. You can replace that with anything you want, I think. It could even be your new Hierophant. I love that everyone wears like crazy pants, crazy outfits. There's a lot of peace signs. There's a lot of pinks and oranges and, you know, flared pants and, you know, flared sleeves and all of that great mustaches. It's just a very flower power deck. And I have been absolutely loving it. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, as you can see, but with a groovy twist. Look at the lovers with the vinyl here. I love that. So honestly, this deck is a firm favorite, but in the month of June I've enjoyed working it again. I've kind of fell back in love with it. I've done some of my pick a card readings with this, I've done a lot of my personal reading with this, and I just absolutely love it. I've not edged it, but I might edge it in pink because, you know, here are the backs, they're very pink and very psychedelic, so I might edge this one. I'm not decided yet, but it's definitely been a firm favorite. And if you want something with color, like a Rider-Waite-Smith, but something a little bit more happy, groovy, you know, 70s, 60s inspired, then this is gonna be the one for you. So thank you so much if you've made it this far. I'm so grateful for you sticking around with me and hearing me talk about all of the things I've enjoyed in the month of June. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you did, don't hesitate to leave my video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you're not yet part of the Ways of Your Soul community, then don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I post videos. I post regular tarot and oracle related videos. I post pick a card readings on lots of different subjects. And it's been amazing to get to know everyone and to grow this little channel on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining me. So as per usual, I am sending you so much good vibes and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!